The harmonies that we packed in here are really helping paint this scene of, just a ton of different extravagant people at this party. There has to be an easier way. Hello, welcome back. We're Rope and Ladder. Today we're going to be diving into the fourth song on our record, Corruption, A Call to Arms. So this song ended up being a pleasant surprise. When we first got back all of our mixes, this was the song that I thought was the most interesting to listen to. The way it came together, as four discrete ideas kind of stapled together, it just kind of turned into this very surprisingly effective piece. It's definitely like a wild ride to go on.
Yeah. So this song kind of flows from part to part. So let's jump into what some of those parts were. So for the intro, what kind of feeling were you trying to convey for this part here? Where are you trying to place the listener?
The song kind of has two conceptual parts. The first is like this lavish royal banquet, and we are kind of painting how extravagant the royalty is. So we kind of have this like calypso swing thing going on, and the scene is just the royalty mocking their constituents.
Yeah, it's kind of like a theatrical, something that the pit band would be playing as the actors walk out onto stage into the pub.
Yeah, and we even played around with the idea of having some sound effects or some Foley effects in there of glasses clinking and some, background murmuring.
So after the intro, we have the chorus, which kind of changes the tone of the song a little bit. It changes the perspective of the storytelling, and the musicality changes a little bit too. It gets a little heavier.
Yeah, the chorus, we bring in some chugga-chugga guitars. We've switched perspective over to the constituents, and they've kind of had it. This is their breaking point, and this is when they've decided to do something about it.
So the next part's the middle solo kind of jam band part. Throughout the course of writing the album, there are many times when Jay and I wanted to add some sort of like organ flair to it, a little organ solo, and this was a perfect spot for that to happen. But neither of us could play organ, so luckily we were able to find someone, a friend of Jay's, Christian, who could jump in and help us out with the solo there, dueling back and forth with the guitar.
Yeah, and I kind of see the solo as this celebration that the constituents are having once they've decided to dig in their heels and stand up for themselves. Circling back to the Foley sound effects idea, we've played around with, having some ohs and ahs and people jumping up and down on tables, like from Fiddler on the Roof, maybe.
Cool. And then last, of course, we have the big "We Have the Manpower" part, which is kind of the townspeople, the citizens kind of banding together and realizing that they do have a stake in this.
And they have everything that they need. They've been pushed to their limits. They have the motivation. They have the tools and resources and manpower to get it done.
An element of surprise.
An element of surprise. Sweet.
Let's jump into it.
So the song starts with this kind of calypso-y waltz swing thing. The guitar, marimba, and the organ kind of have this conversation. Jovial little bass line. We start singing from the perspective of the royalty. In these parts, I was kind of imagining somebody taps on their glasses and everybody looks over and somebody stands up on a chair and is, making fun of the poor people. Like, oh, there has to be an easier way. And so we do a lot here with the tambourine kind of doing this shimmer. And the harmonies that we packed in here are really helping paint this scene of, just a ton of different extravagant people at this party. There has to be an easier way.
Nice. So that's kind of like an intentionally mocking tone.
And the royalty dances with finances while their apathy carries the tune. Singing capitalize on the capitalize wide-eyeing dollar signs.
And there are like 2 harmonies in here that are hilariously high. I wonder if it's these 2. I like this guy. He's such a fat cat.
Capitalize on the capitalize.
The cute wordplay in the lyrics definitely points to the fact that it was one of the earlier songs written out of this bunch.
Yeah, good point. We loved wordplay 10 years ago. and thought it was super cool. That's kind of the fun thing about the record, is that like there's this explicit storyline of all this stuff that happens, but there's also this like implicit storyline of our growth throughout our 20s. And so it's cool because I don't think I'd ever write a song like this ever again, but it's very, very cool that a version of us did write this song, and I super appreciate like the inspiration that those people felt. But yeah, that especially the capital, like that is a little too cute for my taste.
Yeah, that's pushing it.
And the rich are getting richer, and the poor are getting sicker, and oh, watch them wither. And oh.
So this is our first like time tempo or key mutation on the record, which I think is kind of like one of our staples as songwriters, is our willingness to just change the time signature if we need to get between parts, or to make something more interesting. And it was especially important in this song because, as we said earlier, it started as like 4 discrete ideas and we had to glue them together. So if this chorus was at the tempo that the verse was at, it would be totally lame. And if the verse was at the tempo that the chorus was at, then it would be way too rushed. And we get the added benefit here of kind of picking up on this like growing tension line. The rich are getting richer, the poor are getting sicker, and like you can kind of feel that tension kind of like compress and start to burst like a leaking pipe almost.
You must be a new homeowner, Jay. Yeah, there's something cool about adding in either these like tempo changes or time signature changes in a way that is almost hidden. So like you said, that it's not really immediately evident that the tempo is increasing, but what you can kind of feel right away is this increased tension or like franticness.
And the rich are getting richer, and the poor are getting sicker, and oh, watch them wither, and oh, watch them wither away. Famine is fake, this plague is good.
Yeah, so that tempo change brings us into the second part of the song, which is the chorus. The chorus kind of has a different tone than the intro of the song, where it shifts perspective a little bit away from the upper class royalty to the more lower class citizens.
Yeah, and to match that, things get a little grittier. We have this distorted post-rock guitar. We even have a guitar part here that's sole purpose is to just supply some chugga-chuggas. And our friends, the Angry Mob, are back.
Gonna take those bastards out.
So this brings us to the solo of this song, which was just kind of like a sticky note in the back of our minds for the longest time. When we were putting this song together, there was always this like, yeah, then there will be a minute-long banger of a solo, and then we'll go into this next part, and we never really came back and filled it in. We, were booked to get this thing mixed maybe 2 months out from when we were going to do it, and it got real. Like we had to actually put pen to paper and figure out this solo. So what we had figured out originally was pretty much just the interplay between the percussion and the bass, which sounds like this. So we had this chord progression, this kind of swingy relationship between the drums and the bass, and we had no solo. And we are always looking for opportunities to get more organ on the record. It's just so funny because like I had no idea this dude played piano at all. And then he just happened to come over one day and saw my piano and just like ripped on it. And we just asked him to, run through it 10 times and see what came out and send it back. And what came out was this like banger of a foundation of an organ solo, which sounds like this.
So good.
Yeah, and for a while we had considered just letting the organ be the melody of the whole solo. But then maybe a week before we got it mixed, I decided to try to play around and write some counterpoint against the organ. Just kind of went measure by measure and thought about opportunities to step back and let the organ take the melody, and then in the opportunities where the organ was taking a breath, to come in and do a run. Man, what came out was just this like cool, chaotic, swingy, jammy, dueling instrument. I don't know, it's just, again, this whole song was a pleasant surprise, the solo, for something that we put off for so long and then finally just scrapped together in the last couple months. Super proud how it came out.
Just to reinforce the kind of ad hoc nature of this solo section, I'm noticing now the guitar track is labeled Jam Idea. So It wasn't even definitely wasn't like a planned component of this.
And so that's another little piece of connective tissue that we had to put in for the wall of sound manpower part that's about to happen. We really wanted to be able to play that open drop C tuning, big deep bass guitars, and have my vocal be at the absolute top of its range so we can play around with straining the vocal. But that key absolutely did not match the intro or the chorus. If we kept the keys together, the intro would have been way up at the top of my range. So we had to sneak in this like really strange key change in here. And this key change may be best visible through this organ, but you'll see that we go from this F sharp here down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 half steps into this C minor. And it's not like a super related key, so I'll just like let you hear what that sounds like. It felt like in the exact center of this like absolute chaos of this dueling solo part was like a pretty good opportunity to sneak in this like pretty random key change.
Yeah, it's definitely a key change that can't really go unnoticed. So putting it in the solo section, you know, you're flying along there and it's quickly forgotten. It's not something that we really dwell on.
Right, and we're not using it for any compositional reason, right? It's not a key change in a 80s power ballad like I Will Always Love You. It's just like we need it because my voice sounds better in the key of C for the back half of the song, and it's easier for me to sing articulately and in a completely different key for the first half of the song. And we want the guitars to sound deep and heavy for the end.
Yeah, it's just logistics.
That right there may be like the coolest thing I've ever done on the guitar. Or maybe it's just a bunch of nonsense. Who knows? And now again, we like completely switch sonic compositional style here.
Yeah, another transition.
We go from swinging the beat for the entire first 3.5 minutes of the song to going to like a pretty heavy stomp beat here. And we haven't really talked about the drums yet, so maybe this is a good opportunity. You have a pretty important job here as the rhythm section, which is to get the listener kind of ready for this steady stomp beat that's about to happen here.
Yeah, so we're in that swing beat going into it, and then the earlier part of the fill actually has some space between that first hit to set up the transition, and then there's some swung hits early on that kind of ease you into it, and then by the end of it, you're just in 16th notes to lead you into the straight quarter note beat. Yeah, there's a lot of kick and floor tom on beat 1 there, but I think the real like drop, like bass that you feel from it, it's coming from the bass guitar kind of sliding down. That's a neat effect.
We have the manpower, we have the motive.
And this is just, you know, our hero and his group of militiamen just realizing that they have everything that they need to pull this off. We sat on this part for a while, and just like the lead over the gang, over the stomp beat, just always felt pretty compelling.
We have the manpower, we have the motive. We have the resources, we have the
I've always loved that fill. I don't know if you have anything to say about it.
I think that's one of those ones that
Did I hold it
some
hostage?
version of it kind of originated in the early MIDI drum files before it was even played on drums, and it was just...
So I got so
Boxes
attached to it
clicked.
before you even like contributed to it.
a version of it.
I think it's cool.
Yeah, it's a little prog flavor.
So we kill the stomp beat. The drums are helping ride us into the second part. The vocal is on this like ever ascending line here.
This is our call to
And it's kind of similar to like our tempo modulation in the first part of the song leading into the chorus. It's just this building hunk of tension that has to give way to something, and oh, don't you know, it's our main theme back again.
Lots of appearances on the early part of the record.
Yep, just letting the listener know these are the good guys, this is triumphant, this is a good plan. I think we actually added like the main theme resolution here pretty late. We weren't like quite sure where the song was going to go after this. Oh, you know what it was? Remember we used to have the thing where everything cut except for the vocal, and I took like the big deep breath afterwards?
Yeah.
Super melodramatic.
It might have gone back into the chorus.
It did. It did come. Wow, that's a good point. That song would be way too long.
I think everyone would agree the ending we have now is definitely more symbolic and a better ending to the song.
This is our call to
So this last note that I hit leading into the outro, I think I've literally only hit it once in my life, and I think it was this fourth take for this new takes at last note, and I'll let you listen to what the raw attempt sounds like.
This is our call to arms.
And I'm almost positive that I nearly passed out after doing that. When we start playing live and you guys see us live, don't plan on hearing that note, but we'll see. Maybe I'll get so jacked up from the adrenaline that I'll be able to hit it.
That'll be a pull away from the microphone note.
Yeah. Fill in the note with your imagination.
Yeah.
I bet he hit that note. He just wasn't close to the mic. And then we go into this jam.
I don't know if they even exist or not, but whenever this part of the song plays, I always imagine this like kind of Coheed and Cambria outro, like O's.
They're in here.
Yeah, there they are.
They're just not featured super heavily. There's already a ton happening in that frequency space.
Yeah, no, it's kind of better that they're like way under the radar.
Yeah, it's like implication, a whispering of it. So Corruption kind of ends our 4-track prelude, which takes place, like years before the main story. And I think it's a cool opportunity to really lean into this main theme and kind of shut the door on that little bit of storytelling and get the listener ready for the action that's about to happen.
Yeah, it's the first taste of the main theme that's more representative of the album.
I would say that the other ones are reprises, and this is kind of like it being established.
Yeah, this is...
Or like this is it in all of its glory.
Yeah, exactly. This is the first time we've played it like in full force.
Anything you want to read into about our deceptive ending there?
I think it kind of plays into the whole theatrical nature of the beginning of the song, where it's kind of like a lights cut to black, curtain closes on Act 1 type moment.
It just does a good job of kind of thrusting you forward into the storytelling that's about to happen. Cool. So I think
Look at
that's
us. It's only
I
10:15.
I know. I think that's everything I have for sharing my screen. Corruption's a cool song. I think it's going to be fun to play live. It just has cool energy, flow to it. It has like a nice anthemic chorus and an anthemic bridge, or whatever we want to call the manpower part. And if we can figure out how to represent that dueling solo part, I think that'll be super compelling as well.
Yeah, it's definitely one of our songs that's continued to grow on me over time. Like we mentioned, it kind of started out as these separate components that we were trying to piece together. And yeah, I think over time, the more I listen to it, the more we play it, the better it gets for me.
I think our use of modulations in this song is pretty representative of like our approach to songwriting in general, which is that I don't know. There are
Problem solving.
I feel like it's really cliche for us to say like there are no rules. Like we make our own rules when songwriting. But I think younger versions of us maybe would have started a song in 4/4 and kept it there the whole time. And at some point in the process of writing this, we realized that we really enjoyed being able to, have a verse be in 3/4 and a chorus be in 4/4 and get the listener there without them spending too much cognitive effort to get there. And it really became a staple of our songwriting style, I guess. And so this song is a good example of how we use it, maybe not in like a super artistic way, but like a more practical way, just to make sure that the actual recording of the song came out how we were envisioning with, my vocal range in different places relative to the keys, and to make sure that the tempos were appropriate relative to, the different bits of storytelling that we were doing throughout the song.
This isn't like a pop song that's going to be on the radio. It wasn't written for like a record label or anything. This is another example of how this is just kind of a hobby project with no guardrails or anything, no standards that were set ahead of time. And we had these pieces of music that we liked separately, and we just kind of figured out a way to piece it all together into something that sounded nice.
So thanks for joining us for that deep dive of Corruption, A Call to Arms. Next week, we will be diving into The Conspiracy. So if you have any questions or comments about that song, let us know. As always, if you're watching the content, please let us know. Nothing is more motivating for us to keep writing music and keep creating content than people letting us know that they're consuming it.
Give us questions, give us feedback, just reach out.
Cool. See you next time.